Morning, everyone. The theme of today's show is Trudeau says one thing and behaves in another way. So in this one, he says, I believe in openness and transparency. And then his Liberals move to filibuster the We investigation. And really, they don't answer questions. So when you instruct your cabinet members and your caucus members to behave in one way, and then on the other side say, yeah, we love questions, we love robust conversations, we love all sorts of things, we like to be open and transparent, but then you are never open and transparent, that sounds hypocritical, right? And so here's the first chapter of this, and then we're going to go through another chapter looking at the filibuster and how the Liberals have behaved in that. But I think this one's important. I think that we'll start here because I think that people have missed this. I think this is an important connection that nobody else is talking about. So I'm going to talk about it because I think that it's important. Okay, here is Andrea Van Voot, and she's saying, Dear friends who have never worked in PMO, there's no way that the PMO staff and ministerial political staff or multiple departments did not discuss a nearly $1 billion program, billion-dollar cabinet submissions don't just arrive at cabinet table without multiple conversations. And Evan Solomon is reporting, and this tweet is in response to Evan Solomon's report, names public servant Rachel Wernick as public servant who recommended we to distribute the $912 billion program in response. So as soon as I heard this, actually, as I was listening to Miss Chager answer, which one? This one, I think. This one. I was listening to this one. And she said, Rachel Wernick will be able to give you the information, and I've got it in writing, and Rachel Wernick. She said Rachel Wernick 4 or 5 times, and that got my brain ticking. I thought, where have I heard that name before? I know I've heard that name. Michael Wernick. He had to step down because there was a lack of mutual trust between him and the opposition, right? He said Privy Council Michael Wernick is leaving his post as Canada's top bureaucrat, saying there is no path for him to have a relationship of mutual trust and respect with opposition party leaders. The longtime public servant was thrust into the spotlight following allegations he and members of the Prime Minister's office tried to pressure former Justice Minister Jody Wilson-Raybould to sign a remediation agreement and avoid sending the Quebec engineering firm SNC-Lavalin to trial. Wernick also has denied making veiled threats to pressure Wilson-Raybould. I didn't threaten her. I just outlined what would happen if she had ignored me. Did she take that as a threat? I don't know. I just said this would happen, and then this would happen, and then this would happen. Is that a threat? Anyway, here's some context around Rachel Wernick. So Rachel Wernick's brother was clerk of the Privy Council. That is a powerful position with the PMO. The PMO is Katie Telford, is Gerald Butts, even though he's no longer officially with the PMO. He's in Trudeau's sphere of influence. And those former connections, you're just calling a friend, right? If you ask a question, did anybody from your office talk with anybody at the PMO? You can say no. I just talked to my brother Michael, right? I just chatted with Mikey, right? And no problems, because he's not with the PMO. He stepped down, right? In disgrace because he made crazy conspiracy theories in the parliamentary in the parliamentary committee. I bring it up, but it's ancient history at this point. But he had to step down because of the things that he was saying. And now Rachel Wernick's been put in charge of basically deciding who gets $1 billion based on, I don't know, a couple of proposals that happen to be ready to go on the day of. It's really interesting, the power that resides with this senior assistant deputy minister at the Department of Employment and Social Development Canada. She made a recommendation, Chager took it, brought it to cabinet, and they passed it without even really considering it. Why? You have to wonder about this, man. You have to wonder. This is wild. Okay, National Post. This is from July 17th. Today is July 18th, and it's Saturday. I hope you're enjoying your weekend so far. Okay, We organization under scrutiny for not registering, not redesigning, as lobbyist before pitching proposal to Trudeau Liberals. The We organization is coming under new scrutiny over questions as to whether it should have officially registered to lobby the federal government before it pitched 2 separate programs to the Trudeau government last April. We is not listed in the federal lobbying registry on Friday. Conservative MP Pierre Poilievre and Michael Barrett wrote the Federal Commissioner of Lobbying, Nancy Belanger, excuse me if I've got that wrong, asking her to investigate if we had possibly broken the Lobbying Act. At issue are revelations by senior bureaucrats at Thursday's Finance Committee meeting that we sent 2 unsolicited proposals to the federal government. Rachel Wernick, Senior Assistant Deputy Minister at the Department of Employment and Social Development Canada, testified that we first sent a pitch to the government on April 9th proposing the creation of a, quote, social entrepreneurship program. We's second proposal, sent April 22nd, eventually turned into the Canada Student Service Grant, CSSG, which the Trudeau government asked We Charity to implement. I scroll down. According to the Lobbying Act, an activity is considered lobbying when someone is paid to communicate with federal public office holders about receiving contributions or developing federal programs, among other things. In a statement, the Commissioner Belanger, sorry if I've got that wrong again, confirmed that We Charity is not registered as a lobbying organization, but would not say if her office had opened an investigation. The letter from the Conservative MPs asked the Commissioner, quote, whether anyone in the We organization ought to have registered to lobby public office holders but failed to do so. In a statement, We Charity assured its adherence to all rules when it comes to accountability, including those involving lobbying. However, not all communications with public officials constitute lobbying or need to be registered. Does sending unsolicited proposals count? While We is confident of its compliance, we welcome the role of the Commissioner of Lobbying in clarifying what is a gray area for many organizations and will assist her in that regard, We Charity said in a statement. So, interesting. They're not registered as a lobbying group. And this is from yesterday's this is from the 16th, updated yesterday. This is from the We questions. We pitched detailed youth plan on day Trudeau announced $912 million student grant program. Over the course of more than an hour of testimony on Thursday, Rachel Wernick, Senior Assistant Deputy Minister at Employment and Social Development Canada, backed up claims by Liberal ministers that she and her department recommended We as the only organization capable of getting such a large new program up and running within weeks. I scroll down. The first day of testimony into the We issue left MPs with unanswered questions about the nature and extent of the charity's interactions with the Liberal government in the run-up to the Prime Minister's April 22nd announcement. Ms. Wernick told MPs that We Charity had been circulating a similar proposal to the Youth Volunteer Program before Mr. Trudeau's April 22nd announcement. We Charity had already provided to several officials and ministers a proposal related to social entrepreneurship for youth and indicated it could be adopted as needed, Ms. Wernick said. On April 22nd, We Charity sent me a detailed proposal to quickly develop tens of thousands of volunteer placements for youth within a few weeks. Given the need for speed and scale, I determined with my team and colleagues that their draft proposal was the best available option in the time we had to work with. Ms. Wernick said the new proposal emailed by Mr. Kielburger on April 22nd was a modified version of We's earlier proposal. She said it had been adapted to the new parameters set out by the government. Earlier that day, prior to the Prime Minister's press conference, Ms. Wernick said she herself was not aware of the program's details. So the minister, the Minister of Social, I can't remember, a Senior Assistant Deputy Minister at Employment and Social Development Canada, wasn't aware of the details that would be rolling out that she herself would have to make the decision on, but on her desk lands on the day the Prime Minister makes the announcement, a single proposal, unsolicited, that means nobody asked them, nobody said, hey, could you put together a proposal, this is what we need, that perfectly matched the criteria she needed. Isn't that wild? What a coincidence. How lucky for her she didn't even have to do research. She thought to herself, man, I've got a lot of work to do, meeting the criteria that the Prime Minister just laid out publicly that I don't know anything about. I've got a whole bunch of work to do. And then, boom, magically, the work is gone. She's got a dossier done. All she's got to do is say yes. All she's got to do is get her boss to say yes. Right? Please, Ms. Shager, can you please say yes to this proposal? Because this will make my job very easy. I don't have to do anything else. Wild, right? So here's back to this. Ms. Wernick said the new proposal emailed by Mr. Kielburger on April 22nd was a modified version of We's earlier proposal. The new, yes, right. I already read that. Scrolling down. Earlier in the meeting, Ms. Chagar, the Minister for Diversity, Inclusion and Youth, said she had received a written recommendation from Ms. Wernick, that the administration of the planned $912 million program should be outsourced to We via a contribution agreement. I accepted the recommendation and brought it forward to Cabinet, Ms. Chagar told MPs. I scroll down again. Sorry, there's a car driving away, and I've got my garage door open. Ms. Wernick said she had a conversation with finance department officials in April about options for a student volunteer program, and the finance officials raised We Charity with her as a possible potential option. Ms. Wernick said We was an obvious candidate given the group's experience, and she volunteered to call Mr. Kielburger on April 19th because she had dealt with the group in the past. During that call, she learned that Mr. Kielburger had already been circulating a similar proposal related to social entrepreneurship for youth to various ministers and departments. Remember, they're not registered to lobby for these things. Right? So why are they lobbying to multiple people? Multiple ministries, but you have to register to do that. But they're doing it. Doesn't seem to matter. I wonder if there's an investigation, right? Ministries. Conservative MP Pierre Poilievre asked Ms. Wernick repeatedly to name the finance official that raised We Charity with her, but Ms. Wernick would only say that it was a team led by an Assistant Deputy Minister, Michelle Koviat. Oh man, that's terrible. I'm going to skip that one. She offered to provide more information later in writing. If you're interested, the link is in the description. You can come and horribly slaughter the name for yourself. Back to this. You're very evasive, Mr. Poilievre said, expressing his frustration. We know we're onto some trouble there. Ms. Wernick said she learned about We Charity's initial proposal from Mr. Kielburger, but she also said that she had been made aware that it was discussed by the offices of Ms. Chager, Small Business Minister Mary Ng, the Privy Council's office, and the Federal Innovation Department. Exactly who knew about We's original proposal and when was not made clear during the hearing. Upon further questioning, Ms. Wernick later confirmed that We was the only organization to submit an unsolicited proposal to administer the program after the Prime Minister announced it on April 22nd. She also said that her team looked at the possibility of the civil service administering the program itself, as well as at Charity Volunteer Canada. The group has publicly raised concerns about the program. Quote, the question is whether or not we got the inside track, asked NDP MP Charlie Angus on Thursday. So when you call 3 days later, Craig Kielburger's he's got the ideas, he's set to go. Ms. Wernick said she would decline to speculate. I don't know. After speaking to the committee after Ms. Wernick's testimony, Paula Spivak, the chief executive of Volunteer Canada, said officials from the federal government never asked her organization if it was interested in administering the program. But she said Volunteer Canada had contacted officials in late April to raise some concerns about the initiative. Did Michael Wernick call you guys by any chance? No? Okay, just wondering. Back to this. Noting that these discussions were going on in the height of the pandemic in April, Ms. Wernick said Service Canada was completely consumed with other emergency measures, and the Canadian Service Corps was struggling to deliver its existing programs. For the first time on Thursday, officials also confirmed that the student volunteer program was outsourced to We Charity without an open competition. Quote, there was no call for proposals, Ms. Wernick said in French. Canadian Heritage Associate Deputy Minister Gina Wilson said an open call would have taken 2 to 3 months. Quote, we needed to get this program off the ground very quickly, she said. The Globe is a media partner of We Charity, just to note that. So there's a little bit more to this story. But again, Miss Wernick is holding a ton of power, $1 billion in her hand, the sister of former clerk of the Privy Council, and this has got lots of Privy Council footprints all over it, multiple organizations, and she didn't question how Kielburger, who is not registered to lobby, is lobbying multiple ministries across the government to get money for his student entrepreneurship? Weird, right? And here's what the news wants you to think. Here you go. Just have a listen. Here we go.
The second thing that makes no difference is that the public service suggested it. Public service suggests all kinds of things. They forget to suggest other things. The decision rests with cabinet, which is accountable to parliament. That's how our system works. It's a system we've inherited from 600 years of parliamentary tradition. And by now you'd think that Justin Trudeau and his claque would have figured it out. It is not, it's really not nice. It's not kosher. It's a little unseemly for them to drag a medium-level public servant out in public to blame her for their decision.
Right. Stop talking about Miss Wernick. It's not her decision, except that it was, though. Right? She brought the only contract, the only single person. It just landed on her desk. The only single unsolicited contract that was even submitted after the Prime Minister made that. She had the power to hand that contract out, and she didn't bother looking at anybody else. Nobody else, just this private corporation, We. And she made the decision with her and her team that the Canada Public Service was overworked, struggling to meet the demands of CURB and other things. So they outsourced $1 billion, right? Something stinks. Something stinks. Don't listen to this, right? maybe, who knows what Paul Wells is thinking, but he's thinking, don't keep talking about Miss Wernick. Don't draw attention to that name. Somebody's going to pick up on that name. That's important. I think that it's important. I really do. I'm not going to play this because I'm already, 14 minutes? Yeah, this is a whole video already. I could probably stop it here, but I'm going to go through the further hypocrisy of the we thing, and then we'll give it a break. Maybe this will be 22 minutes. Okay, here we go. Mr. Barrett this is how the Liberals are trying to shut things down. This is how Trudeau is not being transparent at all. Here it's a conservative ad. I don't like the conservative ad. It sensationalizes where no sensationalization is needed, and he puts the music in the background. But I didn't have time this morning to scrub through all of the other video of it, and I couldn't find a YouTube video link. I had to watch on Twitter. So, I mean, garbage, right? But whatever. Anyway, here's the part where the Liberal tries to shut down the committee and say we should probably be adjourning. And she won. They got what they wanted. They shut down the committee. Here we go.
That's right. And so I agree with my colleague who said that, let's depoliticize. Okay.
Chair, I'd like to put a motion motion on the floor.
Motion cannot be put forward during a point of order.
That we do now adjourn.
Yeah, I'm sorry. During a point of order, you cannot put a motion forward. Thank you.
But isn't this a privileged motion?
During a point of order, you cannot put that motion forward.
The Liberals have attempted to filibuster this committee. Ms. Shanahan has demonstrated the Liberal cover-up. You talked the clock till 2 o'clock, and now you don't want to deal with any of this committee's business. For shame. That's politics, Mr. Scarpalagia. That's naked partisan politics. That's exactly what you said we shouldn't do here. Vote on the motion. Have the courage of your convictions.
So that's what the short version. Here's the CBC version. Liberal MPs filibuster ethics committee meeting delaying decision on We Charity probe. The House of Commons ethics committee has punted a decision on whether it should launch its own probe of the We Charity scandal to next week after Liberal MPs filibustered through part of the 4-hour meeting. Conservative MPs said today the committee must launch its own parallel investigation into how the contract to administer the $912 million summer student grants program was awarded to We Charity with close personal ties to Trudeau and his family and the PMO and Rachel Wernick. You're missing it. You're missing the connections. Back to this. Committee members were debating whether to adopt a motion that would compel Speaker's Spotlight, the agency that arranged more than $300,000 in We Speaking engagements for Trudeau's brother and mother, to produce receipts for all of their paid appearances over the last 12 years. The motion also would give the committee the power to review the safeguards which are in place to avoid and prevent conflicts of interest in federal government procurement, contracting, granting, contribution, and other expenditure policies. Scroll down. Moving on to Morneau. Morneau said he didn't believe We was trying to buy political favors by offering Trudeau family members speaking fees or by employing his daughter. He said public servants recommended We for the job and cabinet simply followed their advice. Yeah, it's Rachel Wernick's fault. She recommended it. I don't know. Ask her or her brother. Right? Isn't it seems interesting that the Liberals are so intent on throwing this public servant under the bus. I wonder what the play is here. I'm not sure exactly. Federal government spent $3.7 million on 16 staff to review pandemic campaign ads. That's $231,250 per person. So that's a lot of money. If everybody got paid the same, right? That's a lot of money to review campaign ads. Does this make you scared? Does it make you scared enough to wear a mask all the time? No? Okay. Quebec is moving to masks full time. People are not happy about it. Here's 680 News. Quebec becomes first province to make masks mandatory in indoor public spaces. The numbers don't bear out. The numbers don't require this. It's very interesting. The numbers are continuing to drop, and it's not because people are more locked down. It's going away. I can't believe that there are people who are willing to comply with this mask order so much. Here it is, back to the article. Starting today, Quebec becomes the first province in Canada to require mask wearing in all indoor public places. The new directive, which applies to people aged 12 and older, comes into force as tens of thousands of Quebecers begin the traditional 2-week construction holiday. Businesses will be expected to enforce the new rules and are subject to fines between $400 and $6,000 if their customers are caught violating the directive. Some Quebecers have joined protests against the new edict, arguing the government shouldn't have a blanket policy where most regions outside Montreal weren't deeply affected by COVID-19. But Dr. Horatio Arruda, excuse me if I got that wrong, Quebec's Director of Public Health, has responded by stating all Quebecers should get in the habit of wearing masks to prepare for a possible second wave of the virus in the fall. Bullshit. Garbage. And using a possible future pandemic to say you should get used to wearing this medical device? No, thanks very much. Where are the governments that take the advice of the public health but don't have public health unilaterally declaring law because they feel like it? Get bent. Not a chance. Unbelievable, in fact. I'll give you an update on Mr. Gilati? I can't remember his name. Hold on. Gilati. He had an interview with Amanda Forbes. It's a very interesting interview. I want to talk to Rocco as well about some other interesting things that are going on, but it's very interesting. The mask, it's going through the courts, so I don't know if, and Guelph is included in it. I don't know if anything will happen. There's not been much media on it. Here's the last story for today. CMHC is spending $250,000 on research into a federal home equity tax. The objective is to identify solutions that could level the playing field between renters and owners. What's his name? The liberal Toronto guy said that they're not actually doing this, but I don't know. I don't believe them because I'm sure they're investigating it. They've got a lot of money to pay for, and Canadians' equity in their houses is untapped at this point. It wouldn't surprise me. Okay, the real last story. Yesterday I reported on the video surveillance by Chinese media in the Project Sidewinder foreshadowed story of Canada, right? Like the Canadian, forget buying a Canadian company. We're just going to directly compete for Canadian contracts. Forget pretending to not be from China. We're definitely from China, and we're competing directly for your security contracts. Can you wait until you have to go in the library through a Chinese scanner? Oh, sorry, you were here the other day and you've taken out too many books. Go back to the internet that's crippled. Right. Here it is. Breaking. Canadian foreign minister. You remember the one who had mortgages in China? Yeah. Promises to review after 5 border security contracts awarded to a controversial Chinese state tech company connected to CCP elite leaders. Yeah, I'm sure he'll review it very, very, very well. He'll look at it and say, oh, right. Yeah, great. Sign. Moving on. Who knows? Maybe he'll ask Miss Wernick what she thinks. Could you find me 3 other companies, or just one, that could do the same thing? Make sure it's one of your friends. Unbelievable. I really do think the media is missing a lot of the connections here. I don't know if they're missing it on purpose or if they're not allowed to draw those lines or what, but there's a line there. And when you can honestly say, I haven't been speaking to anybody at the PMO, and then call your brother, and then your brother calls Jerry Butts, and Jerry Butts calls Katie Telford, and Katie Telford says, you know who we should go with? I've got an idea. Or the other way around, right? Katie says to Gerald, Gerald says to Michael, Michael says to Rachel, and Bob's your uncle. Bardish Shager is under the hot seat with Vasi Kapolas, and she's looking very, very uncomfortable, right? Very uncomfortable indeed. Thanks for watching, everybody. Check out CanadaPoly.com. Check out CanadaReport.co. Check out SpeakingMoistly.co. And have a wonderful, wonderful